Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. Joining us on the phones this morning, U.S. Senator John Cornyn. Senator, good morning, and how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Chad. Pretty frustrated and downright angry at Senator Schumer and Nancy Pelosi sitting on the sidelines receiving a government paycheck while hundreds of thousands of Americans are out of work because they've been told they can't go to work and they're not receiving a penny. And we're trying to get them some help, as well as the small businesses that we hope will still be in existence when this virus passes, as well as try to provide some loans that will be paid back to large employers that employ hundreds of thousands of people, so our economy can jump back after this temporary crisis.
Senator, let's last night, or I guess yesterday, Democrats blocked as I saw it, a procedural vote cloture to move this vote down to the floor. Continue debate on it, but they blocked that yesterday. They didn't want to have a vote this morning. Tell folks what is in the Phase 3 bill as we know it right now, and what the Democrat objection is right now.
Well, there are basically four components. One is direct help to people who are not receiving a paycheck. The other is for small businesses, employers, to give them incentives and some money to keep people on their payroll during this temporary shutdown. And then for the airlines and other systemically important industries to our general economy, where they have no demand for their services because of concerns about the coronavirus, to give them a lifeline, loans that they will have to repay, but will provide them cash to keep their businesses alive while this crisis is with us, and then to help our healthcare system, which needs to surge its capacity in order to deal with people who might need their services. Most of us, Chad, if you got the coronavirus, well, first of all, most of us are at low risk as long as we maintain good hygiene and social distancing. But if you got it, unless you happen to be elderly or have some underlying health care problems, you will probably pass with a minimum of symptoms, but you want to make sure you get tested or that confirmed and are isolated so you don't infect other people. But that's as short a summary as I can give you with what this bill will do. And unfortunately, Senator Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are back with the usual sort of gamesmanship at a time when we really can't afford it.
Guy Benson on Twitter this morning tweeted out that via senior GOP aide, Schumer and Pelosi are now pushing for unprecedented collective bargaining powers for unions, increased fuel emission standards for airlines, and expansion of wind and solar tax credits. Is that what you're hearing as well? It is. You know, Rahm Emanuel was famous for saying that never let a crisis go to waste. And what they're doing is using this crisis to advance their ideological and political agenda. This is not a time for that. We need to get people help immediately who need the help the most, particularly those who don't even have a paycheck coming in to pay for the necessities of life. We can go back to fights over some of these other issues at another time, but blocking this bill is completely irresponsible. What do you think will happen in today and tomorrow? Because I know you and Majority Leader McConnell, I know y'all want to move through. Y'all want to get this bill to the House and to the President's desk. What do you think the timeline's looking like right now?
Well, today at 11 a.m. Central Time, we will have another revote of the vote last night. Actually, we could have as many as three votes to try to get this bill out of the Senate. We're not going to agree to these crazy ideological demands. We want to make sure people get the help they need. I don't think the position that's taken by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer is sustainable, as we've seen the incredible volatility in the stock market, which is a reflection that people are afraid and they don't know what the future is. and we need to provide them some reassurance that at least we, their elected representatives here in Washington, are trying to look out for them and trying to get them the help they need when they need it.
Senator, 5 of your colleagues are basically in isolation or quarantine because of coronavirus. Senator Rand Paul tested positive for coronavirus. Is there a scenario, is there a plan in place for remote voting should it come to that? Because at some point you have to worry about a quorum, correct?
Well, you're right. And that is something that we need to learn from this experience. We do not have any mechanism in place for remote voting in the Senate. Our 230-some-odd year tradition has been in-person voting because we need that kind of political accountability. People need to stand up and cast their ballot in person. But it's time like these, really unprecedented times, that call into question whether we need some emergency procedures, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations about that. But right now, we do have 5 Republicans who will not cast a ballot because they are in self-quarantine.
What happens if we get to the point where you don't have a quorum?
Well, I hate to think about that. Absent some extraordinary cooperation, the Senate would not be able to function, and that obviously is unacceptable. So that's why I think this emergency has demonstrated a vulnerability, like our supply chains from China for medication or medical equipment, that we simply did not acknowledge, and we're going to have to deal with all of
that. Senator, the president tweeted this morning, "We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself." He added, "At the end of the 15-day period, we will make a decision as to which way we want to go." Do you think it's been a mistake to have the lockdowns the way it is and with the impact on the economy, or do we need to basically keep having these, the social distancing and the lockdowns and everything else moving forward, maybe even past the 15-day threshold?
Well, I think we need to be guided by what the medical professionals are telling us in terms of our the procedures that are being used. I think Governor Abbott wisely has allowed the mayors and county judges in the most affected areas, largely urban areas, make this call for themselves, because Texas is a big, diverse state with 29 million people. We don't need a lockdown statewide. But I do think that that reflects the balance we need to try to strike. We need to keep people healthy and to defeat this virus, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our economy and the jobs that are so important to all of us are there when this crisis is averted and when the crisis passes. So I think that's what the president's struggling with. That's what we're all trying to struggle with.
Senator, in the bill that you're looking at right now and that you want passed, a little bit of clarification, if you will. Steve Mnuchin has talked about 2 rounds of checks. Does this bill, Phase 3, include just 1 round of checks or 2 rounds of checks? How does that work?
Well, it's if the crisis is still upon us, in other words, if the president still has declared a national disaster, then potentially 2 rounds of checks would be available. If it passes and the virus is defeated and we don't need it, then my understanding is under the legislation that the second round of checks would not be sent.
Okay, and that would be determined in May?
Yes.
Okay. Do you just, as far as you're concerned, how do we get this economy moving again? Let's say May 1st, something happens. Are we able to just flip a switch and get the economy roaring again? What happens?
Well, that's why we're trying to provide assistance to small, in addition to individuals who are not getting a paycheck. We provide loans and other help to small businesses so they can keep people on the payroll. So when the demand, when the restaurants business picks up again after people can go back to normal, that business continues to exist. And we know that there are other larger businesses that employ hundreds of thousands, even millions of people in our country that could simply go away. And we need to make sure that what we believe will probably be a relatively short time period during which we have to take these most extreme measures. Once we come out of it, that we're in a position for our economy to take off again as it was before this virus hit us.
Yeah. Senator Cornyn, we appreciate your time updating us with everything that's going on. We wish you guys the best of luck, and hopefully all of you can stay healthy enough to still meet.
You bet. You bet. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you. That's Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad Hasty Show. We'll take our break. When we come back, we'll get your reaction to what the senator had to say. And coming up at 10 a.m.,